Stay right there because we're going to talk about more aspects of AI and the benefits and possible risks in just a moment. But first, I want to look at another aspect. In January, a Democrat Congressman, Jake Auchincloss, made news after he delivered a speech on the floor of the U.S. House of Representatives that was generated by ChatGPT. I spoke with him about that and his concerns about AI development. So first, here's the clip of that speech he delivered in Congress.
Mr. Speaker, I stand here today because I am planning to reintroduce the United States-Israel Artificial Intelligence Center Act, a bipartisan piece of legislation that will cement a mutually beneficial partnership between the United States and Israel on artificial intelligence research. This is a critical step forward in an era where AI and its implications are taking center stage in public discourse. We must collaborate with international partners like the Israeli government to ensure that the United States maintains a leadership role in AI research and development and responsibly explores the many possibilities evolving technologies provide. The United States-Israel Artificial Intelligence Center Act will allow us to tap into the expertise of both countries and draw upon each other's resources to explore and develop cutting-edge AI advancements. I yield back.
Congressman, it's great to have you back on BBC News. Thanks for joining us. We just saw a clip of your speech in Congress there. What point did you want to make?
First of all, thanks for having me back on. Since my time at MIT and then through the years working in high tech, I've been following AI closely. I could tell that it was hitting an inflection point where it was going to be disruptive to wide swaths of our economy. And I really wanted to draw attention to this issue because AI cannot be like social media, where policymakers were 5, 10, 15 years behind the curve. It got so big so fast that its negative effects on society, on our democracy, were unrealized and unmitigated and have now become very hard to repair. We've got to be ahead of the curve, not behind the curve.
It does seem to be reaching an inflection point, as you said. And this week we saw leaders in AI sign a statement warning of AI risks. What concrete actions do you think Congress should take immediately?
First and foremost is deepfakes. I'm working on legislation right now that would make the internet service providers and social media companies liable for defamation through AI-generated deepfakes. I am deeply concerned that deepfakes generated in advance of the 2024 presidential election are going to make the 2016 Twitter bots from Russia look like child's play. We are going to be seeing situations in which politicians appear to be saying or doing things they did not say or do in ways that move voters, that move elections, and that really undermine the bonds of trust and a shared reality that any healthy civil society requires. We cannot allow social media platforms to hide behind Section 230 and liability shields and claim that deepfakes are fair game when they're defamatory and when they drive disinformation.
Congressman, you just mentioned social media platforms, and we have just seen that Axios is reporting that YouTube is reversing its election denialism policy and will leave up content that says that there was fraud in the 2020 election because they say leaving that policy in place might have the effect of, quote, curtailing political speech without meaningfully reducing the risk of violence. What do you think of that?
Well, that's two different issues. One is the ability of a platform to censor speech. And while the First Amendment does not prohibit private companies from censoring speech, there's also nothing that requires them to do that. And a robust give and take of ideas, even ideas that we find despicable or downright false, is part of democratic debate. What I'm discussing right now, though, is defamatory deepfakes. What I am saying is generated videos and images showing people doing or saying things they never said or did in order to drive disinformation and to create confusion. For example, you may have seen a couple weeks ago doctored images of the Pentagon under attack, which briefly caused the stock market to flutter. Now, that wasn't a particularly sophisticated deepfake. What we're going to see, I'm worried, in the next couple of years are deepfakes at 10x the level of sophistication. We're already seeing the Chinese Communist Party do this in Burkina Faso and in other areas. And I worry that the CCP, the Russians, and even individuals can start deploying them to undermine our democracy.
So what do you want your fellow colleagues in Congress to do about it?
I want them to support legislation that would make internet service providers and social media companies liable for knowingly hosting deepfakes that are defamatory or for not taking reasonable care and being negligent in allowing them to be disseminated. Right now, under Section 230, they can plausibly assert that it's not their problem. These are trillion-dollar companies. It is their problem.
You mentioned Russia and China. I want to ask you about something we heard from one of your colleagues in Congress. Last Friday, I spoke to Representative Seth Moulton. Here's what he said.
We can't expect our adversaries like Russia and China to follow the same rules of the road when it comes not only to their troops, but to their autonomous weapons. And that's why we've got to get ahead of this problem, set some international norms for their use, the same way that we've come to agreement on things like chemical weapons.
Do you think that China and Russia are willing to work with the U.S. and its allies on setting these types of norms on how AI is used?
More important are guardrails with the Chinese Communist Party. Right now, we're watching Vladimir Putin send cruise missiles into maternity wards. So my faith in his willingness to abide by international agreements is severely limited. When it comes to Russia, our job is to secure a strategic victory for the Ukrainians and be with them for as long as it takes. Now, with the CCP, we know that they're trying to deploy AI through both the People's Liberation Army as well as through the PLA Navy. And for starters, our response needs to be stronger and better at it than they are. We can negotiate from a position of strength. We do not want to negotiate from a position of a weakness or being behind.
Congressman, thank you again so much for joining us on BBC.
Good to be with you.